Okay. Good morning to all of you. Yeah. so, so the topic today is a finite fields, but let us see that what we covered in the previous class, right? In the first two lectures, we discussed the following. So first we defined well ordering principle, division algorithm. It is in the first day, right? So whenever I say something, try to recall that what is well ordering principle, right? Every non-empty subset of a natural numbers has a least element. Division algorithm. So let A and B are two natural numbers, B not equal to 0. That is a hypothesis. What is the conclusion? There exist unique Q and R such that A is equal to BQ plus R. And R satisfies some condition, 0 less than or equal to R is less than modulus of B. So properties of division. So from that we defined the concept of division. Then we saw several properties of the division, right? And GCD concept. Okay, and the Euclidean algorithm is used to find the GCD of two numbers. And then we have Bezoart's identity. That is very useful concept. What it says is that GCD of two natural numbers is expressed as integer linear combination of those integers itself. That means if A comma B GCD is equal to D, then there exists X and Y such that D is equal to AX plus BY. So one of you rightly pointed out that they need not be unique, right? Good. But whereas in the division algorithm, that Q and R are unique. And then we discussed primes and composite numbers, but actually basically I do not discuss much about. I stated one result that fundamental theorem of arithmetic. Every natural number greater than 1 can be written as product of primes uniquely up to order. So then we discussed congruences, the concept of congruence, then Fermat's-Little theorem. That is on the first day we discussed. Second day, Chinese remainder theorem, okay, and Euler's theorem. Then primitive roots of modulo n, right? These are the three things we done. And proof of Euler's theorem is very much similar to Fermat's-Little theorem. So Fermat's-Little theorem says that if A is any integer and P is a prime number with A comma P GCD 1, that is the hypothesis, then A power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo P, right? So as a corollary to that, A power P is congruent to A modulo P whenever P is a prime number. That is true for every integer A. Okay, some people will state that as a Fermat's-Little theorem. For every integer A belongs to Z, A power P is congruent to A mod P whenever P is a prime number. Okay, so Euler extended that result to any natural number. How he extended? So he defined some function called Euler phi function that we discussed, whose properties we discussed in the previous class, right? And then primitive roots modulo n. So if I take a Zn means a set of all integers modulo n, right? So then that is generally it is a, we know that it is a ring also, means it is group with respect to addition, but it is not group with respect to multiplication. But in every ring, there is a concept called set of all units. If I take in that ring, they form a group, right? You take any ring R. So if I take all units in that ring, that means invertible elements with respect to multiplication. So they form a group that is called group of units. The group of units of Zn is called Un. So Un generally need not be cyclic, right? That's what we discussed. But Un is cyclic only in particular cases when n is a prime number, or it is a p power k where p is a odd prime. If it is p is 2, then it is U2 is cyclic. U2 contains only one element. U4 is cyclic because it contains only 1 comma 3. These are the only two groups which are cyclic when n is equal to 2 power something, 2 and 2 square only. 2 cube onwards, it is not a cyclic group, right? Okay, and 2 into p power k also, where p is an odd prime. So these are the only cases that Un becomes a cyclic group. The generator is called a primitive root. Actually, in general, how do you define primitive root? You take a Zn, you take an element in Zn, it is said to be primitive root whose order equal to order of the group. Order of the group Un is exactly phi n. Okay, that means it is cyclic group, right? Yeah, then only primitive roots exist. Yeah, so these are the things we discussed in the first two classes. So any doubts or any comments you want to make? Can I proceed? Okay, fine. So today my objective is just two things only. See, I am decreasing the content also as we go forward. Number of slides, content. I will interact more with you. Okay, because now as you go forward, that is new concepts to you. Earlier things are you already studied and you know, that's why I went a little fast. Now today objective is to introduce quadratic residues and finite fields. Okay, so let us start. So are you clear today what is objective? Okay. So can you recall certain fields which you know? Okay, what is field means? Okay, now again I cannot define all the things. So sets where we can add, subtract, multiply and divide. Of course, divide, when you divide, you careful, you do not by 0. So some people can tell me.
So R is a field.
R is a field, okay.
So complex number set of
Complex numbers is a field, okay.
Yes.
Any other things?
Q.
Q is a field, right? Any other?
So ZP is also field.
ZP is also field. Today's topic actually, that's why I will stop there. Okay, so ZP is a field, right? Where P is a prime number. So Z by PZ, that is also a field. Okay, these are the fields, and we will use very heavily finite fields in this course. See, some of you can come forward. So quadratic residues will be used to create a codes. Okay, so I am happy to share the things with them. Okay, and also quadratic residues will be used heavily in cryptography also. There is a digital signatures. Okay, there is area called blind signatures. There are different types of signatures are there. So quadratic residues used in the blind signatures also, right? Many places actually. Okay, so that is the reason actually. See, do not so it is not that I am little I know number theory, that's why I am teaching. No, it is not because of that. In the coding theory and cryptography, number theory and finite fields are very, very important. Okay, so it also gives me some interaction with you, and also this is very useful. So everything I am going to introduce, I will tell you. We will use it. We will use them heavily. Okay, and so you know that Satyajit Ray is a very good director, right? One of the reasons that people say he's a good director is that whatever he introduces, he shows, he will use it sometime later. What my point is that, see, you show some lamp or something, then in this later at some point of time he will use it. There is a logic. Now you know recently all movies there is no logic at all, right? You will just call like this and a chair will come. So certain things, okay. But so here we are not like that. Whatever I am introducing now, we will use them. Okay, that is the reason. Okay, right. Okay, so fields where square roots also exists. For example, one of you told that related to Q, right? So for example, if I take 2, okay, what is the square root of 2, right?
So you can take Q root 2.
No, I'm saying, no, is root 2 is a also belongs to Q? No,
So
right?
you can attach.
Yeah, so see, what I want to say that fields are closed with respect to addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, of course not by 0, but they are not closed with respect to square roots, right? If I take an element, if I take square roots, again it need not belongs to Q, right? Okay. Any questions? Yeah, that is clear, right? Okay. So, but are there any fields where square roots also exist? Yeah, that is a question now. Okay, I will ask one more question so that much may be clear to you. What about real numbers?
Yeah, their square roots
Exists?
exist.
Okay, what about square root of, yeah, the Dhruv, yeah, you can tell. Dhruv? Yeah, Dhruv, carry on. You want to say something, say. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, Dhruv, carry on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, say Dhruv. So you want to say something about?
Yes, I just
Hmm.
just said affirmative about real numbers.
Okay. So your voice is not clear through. Okay, I'll continue. Okay. Sorry for. Yeah, now you can say. I think now it is clear. It seems.
Yes, I was affirmation for R to exist with this.
No, no. Actually, again, it is actually voice is breaking. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So what is that I want to? So what about -1?
Uh-huh.
So
Right. Yeah.
negative number will not have root.
Negative real
Real
numbers
numbers.
does not have square roots, right?
Yeah, and
But positive numbers they have square roots, and we can prove it also. That is unique also. In the when you done the course in real analysis, so you will do that one. Every nth root also positive nth root. If positive real numbers, nth root also exist, but that is unique, right? Yes. Okay. But for negative, it is not sure. Even for square roots, at least in particular, square roots doesn't exist for a negative real numbers, right? Yes. So it is not always true that square roots exist in the fields. So in particular fields, so that's what my question, which contain roots of the polynomial x square plus 1, right? Yeah. So in complex numbers, it is true, right? In complex numbers, square roots also exist, and x square plus 1 square root is also. That is one of the reason that complex numbers are derived, right? What about finite fields? Okay. In the finite fields, x square plus 1 ka root milega. Okay. The question clear? So if I take finite fields, what are finite fields we need to see? Fields with finite number of elements. Right now you know ZP. So today we want to see more of them, many of them, right? Yeah, okay. So I'll make it more clear. What about solutions of x square plus 1 in Z2, Z3, Z5, Z7? Yeah, now you can comment.
Sir, in Z2, 1 will be a solution.
Z2?
X square plus 1 will be equal to 0, right?
What is the solution for it? You just tell me that.
1, 1.
1, yeah, good, that's okay. Yeah, so 1 is a root. X square plus 1 has a solution in Z2. If I take 1 square plus 1, it is 2, that is 0. So it has a solution, correct. So how many roots are there for x square plus 1 in Z2?
So 2.
No,
1.
One.
only 1. But
Sorry,
it is a
sorry.
polynomial of degree 2, but it has only 1. Why it is happening? Just my goal is to just ask questions. Why x square plus 1 has only 1 root in Z2? Yeah, Pragati, yeah. Hello, Pragati.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me why only 1 root is there?
Sir, it is not an integral domain.
Z2 is a field, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Hmm. See, x square plus 1 is equal to x square plus 2x plus 1 in Z2.
Yes, sir.
Now carry on.
Sir, by Eisenstein criteria.
Why Eisenstein
It is,
criteria x square plus 1 is equal to, I told that x square plus 2x plus 1, right? X square plus 1 is equal to
yes,
x
sir.
square plus 2x plus 1. Continue. What do you mean by x square plus 2x plus 1? What do you know about from childhood? You know something. That is x plus 1 whole square.
Yes, sir.
But that means what is the root? It is a repeated root. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So x square plus 1 in Z2 is nothing but x plus 1 whole square only. But x plus 1 whole square is also same as x minus 1 whole square. Why?
Yes,
1
sir.
and -1 are same. So that's why it is
Yes,
a
sir.
repeated root there. Okay. All of you are clear? X square plus 1 is same as x plus 1 whole square in Z2. Okay. Okay, fine. So what about Z3? What is the root for x square plus 1 in Z3?
There isn't any.
Any. Okay. Z5?
2.
Two roots are there. What are those, Aditi?
No, sir. Like, okay, yeah, 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Yeah. 2 square plus 1. 2 square plus 1 is okay root. 3 square plus 1 is a root. Yes. 2 and 3 are the roots, right? All of you are okay? Yes. It has two roots and it is very nicely behaving. Two distinct roots came. What about Z7? So now can you make some statement? All of you, any one of you? So square root of -1. Now we are looking in terms in the ZP. Yeah, Dhruv, you want to say something? You can carry on. No, I am not asking yes or no. Okay, it does not have root in Z7. That's okay. But can you make a general statement now? Where x square plus 1 has roots, x square does not plus 1 does not have roots. Some statement, some sort.
So if it is odd prime, then we can find roots.
So everything is odd prime. So except Z2 ko chhod do. So afterwards everything is an odd prime, right? So for example, in Z3, Z7, we are unable to find roots, but Z5 it is. What about Z17?
So for the type 4k plus 1, we have solutions.
So Aniruddha is telling that if you take, so he's telling this, I'll just make those statements. Okay. Yeah. So he's making this. Okay. So he's telling that x square plus 1 has roots when in ZP, where P is of the form 4k plus 1. It does not have roots in the ZP where P is of the form 4k plus 3, he's saying. So we'll see that in a while. Okay. So before going to that, so that is some idea now. We'll try to see that later. So what about x square minus 1? What about the roots of x square minus 1 in Z8? So do not tell me the answer immediately. So take some time before going to answer. Okay, so are you clear? I am asking what are the roots of x square minus 1 in Z8? So also please think about the Z, is it a field or not also, right? If it is not a field, then what are its roots? So what is happening? So think about them. You know Z8, right? Z8 contains 0, 1, 2 up to 7. Yeah, so any one of you want to answer now? You can answer now. Raise your hand or sorry, tick yes. If you want to answer, tick yes. I am asking, you have to solve in Z8. What are its all the roots? So substitute, keep on substituting and check. Is 1 is a root or not? 2 is a root or not? Like that.
3 roots are there.
3 roots are there. Okay. What are those 3 roots?
3, 5, and 7.
Sir,
Sneha, very good.
One,
So
sir,
what
will
about
also,
1?
So 1 will also be there. 1 square.
Yes,
Yeah.
1.
1 is also. So how many roots are there now? 4 roots are there. But it's a polynomial of degree 2. So polynomial of degree 2 has 4 roots in Z8. Why it is behaving like that? Yeah, so these are the things we need to ask ourselves, why it is behaving. So what are these 1, 3, 5, 7?
The co-prime.
They are co-prime to
Co-prime to
Z8.
8.
See, if it is satisfying, for sure it has to be co-prime also, right? That also one has to check in your mind. Okay, and they are exactly U8. We discussed U8. You remember what is U8? All the numbers which are relatively prime to 8.
Two.
They are exactly 1, 3, 5, 7.
Yes.
Why it is happening? Again, you can think of U8 is a group. Which group it is? Is it cyclic? No, it is not cyclic. We already saw that un is cyclic only when n in the 2 power pay, only n equal to 2 or n equal to 4. U8 is not cyclic, but it is a group of order 4, right? Then what about the elements orders? Each one of them is 2, 2, 2, except 1. 1 also satisfies, though order of 1 is 1, but 1 square equal to also 1. But 3, 5, 7. So U8 is a Klein 4 group, if you are known it, right? So name, okay, that's nothing to worry. But what is happening is that, so every element in that satisfying that, okay? Yeah, but this is in general not true, okay? So now the question is that if F is a field, okay, now I am confined to F is a field. Z8 is not a field, okay. Whereas if F is a field, F belongs to Fx. Fx, set of all polynomials with the coefficients from F. So how many roots that the polynomial F can have in F? What is your answer to that? Yes. Is the question clear? Let F be a field and F is a polynomial of some degree. So let us say, so if I already told some hint of you, so it has some degree. How many roots that polynomial F can have? Yeah.
Less than or equal to n.
So Descartes rule, it will have maximum.
Yeah, so actually Vikram already told, actually Sachin.
Yes.
Vikram told that it is less than or equal to the degree of the polynomial. He's correct. Okay. So for example, why he told less than or equal to? So you saw that x square plus 1 is a polynomial of degree 2, but it does not have root in Z3. Okay. So 2 roots, no, it does not have even single root. So less than or equal to is the correct answer. Okay. That is the first thing. Okay. But how do you prove it? Okay. So proof is very simple. We will go by induction on the degree of F. Okay. So if you start thinking, you will get the proof. Okay. So what is the first case we start? So I take a polynomial of degree 1. Degree 1 means how it look like. Okay. Yeah. So A is a polynomial ax plus b. Now is ax plus b has a root in ax plus b where a and b are from F. Okay. So I told it degree is 1. So so degree is 1 means what we can say about A. Ax plus b, degree is 1. What we can say about A? Okay, that is first thing. So ask yourself.
Non-zero.
It is non-zero, right? Otherwise, it is degree cannot be 1. So that part is done. And it is a field. And in a field, what happens to the non-zero elements?
Inverse exists.
Inverse exists. So what is inverse? What is the root for Ax plus b then?
B into A inverse.
Minus b into A inverse, right? So if I minus b into A inverse, it will satisfy. Is it belongs to the field F? Yes. So we are done for it. And are there any other roots? You can prove it. No. Okay. Suppose there are 2 roots and you can prove it, right? Ax1, ax2. So x1 and x2 are 2 roots. Then ax1 plus b is equal to ax2 plus b, right? Then ax1 is equal to ax2. So a into x1 minus x2 equal to 0. A is non-zero. So that way, sorry, it is not good to tell all these details, right? Yeah, I hope you understand. So that way you can prove it for the degree 1. Then you need to prove for degree n now. Okay. So assume that it is true for all the polynomials of degree less than or equal to n. Then you will prove for degree n also. So this is one case we need to use strong induction. Okay. Now again, how do you prove it? Just I am giving, in future I will not give. So it is you have to think. That will give a lot of confidence. Okay. So I take a polynomial of degree n. I already assumed induction hypothesis, right? So I take a polynomial of degree n. First thing is that if it does not have roots at all, I am done. Okay. I want to show it has at most n roots. Statement I not made here, you made. Okay. Statement now you have to remember. I am not stated here. What is that we are proving? If you take any polynomial of degree n in a field, it has at most n roots. That is a statement that is not written here. We are proving that result. Okay. So now if I take a polynomial of degree n, it has no roots, we are done. Suppose it has 1 root, then what happens? Then by division algorithm will apply even here also, right? So, and by factor theorem, so we can easily show that. So that polynomial f of x equal to x minus a alpha into some other polynomial. Now the other polynomial degree is less than n. In fact, exactly n minus 1, right? Now by induction hypothesis apply to that. So I'll done it. So right, proof is done. Anybody has doubt in this proof? If you have a doubt, please tick no, then I'll explain, or raise hand. Okay, so I'll proceed then. Okay, so now as Aniruddha told, so how do you show that there is no root for x square plus 1 in ZP where p is of the form 4k plus 3? So statement is correct, but how do you show that there is no root for x square plus 1 in ZP? That is actually basically what is it means, minus 1 does not have a square root in ZP. But yeah, so this is the first thing. Like real numbers, ZPs where they're of the form 4k plus 3 does not have a square roots. Yeah, any one of you? Okay, so I'll give some hint. So the hint is that Fermat's Little theorem. How do you use it? And okay, I'm giving some hint to you. Sorry, if you are responding in the chat, please do not do that. I cannot see the charts. Okay, please excuse me for that. So direct, we'll talk. Okay.
Sir, you take x equal to 4k plus 1.
No,
Then,
no, I'm not taking 4k. Hello. I'm not taking x equal to 4k plus 1 and all. The question is that x square plus 1 in a ZP where p is of the form 4k plus 3 does not have a root. Okay, that is what we want to show. How do you show it? I given a hint that one way is this. Sorry, so hint should not be given, but one way is that this is easier way, but there are many other ways to prove it. Yeah.
So when we'll write the equation for Fermat's Little theorem, so then when we'll substitute p to be 4k plus 1, we can get a perfect square there. A to the power 4k is congruent to 1 mod p. So that is why 4k plus 1 works and 4k plus 3 won't work.
No, 4k plus 1 I am not at, so just concentrate on 4k plus 3. Yeah, Shruti, thanks. Okay, so let me complete. Suppose that it has a root. I'm not doing anything. Again, I'm as usual earlier. Yes, I'm just writing whatever we have. Suppose we'll prove by contradiction, right? So sometimes, okay. Suppose that x square plus 1 has a root in ZP. That means it is congruent to, so there exists some x naught. X naught square plus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p, right? Is it visible what I'm writing? Just checking one, sorry. One of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So x naught is a root. Okay, I'm assuming that it has a root. X naught square plus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p. Okay, so just write down whatever you have, then you will get the things. So this means that x naught square is congruent to minus 1 modulo p. So why Fermat's Little theorem coming now suddenly? Now p is of the form 4k plus 3. P is of the form, okay. So I'm telling, but before applying Fermat's Little theorem, just go again. P is of the form 4k plus 3 some k. What about p minus 1? Why p minus 1? Fermat's Little theorem, there is a p minus 1 comes, right? Okay. So how do you utilize? Okay, later. But let's write down what is p minus 1. It is 4k plus 2, right? Yeah. So then why again this 2 and pk minus 1 are related? Okay, let us check one more time. Since p is an odd prime, right? I am looking odd primes, okay. So 4k plus 3 means it is an odd prime, right? So p minus 1 is even. So I can think about p minus 1 by 2, right? So p minus 1 is even. So I can, this will be reasonable. So it is 2k plus 1, okay. So till now without applying the Fermat's Little theorem, so I am here, right? So now Now can somebody now come up?
So we'll have x naught raised to
Hmm.
p minus 1 by 2 the is congruent to p minus.
Yeah. So now Rohan already told the answer. You see that what he's telling is that x naught square whole power p minus 1 by 2. So 2 gets cancelled. I'll get to p minus 1. So x naught power p minus 1, you already know it is congruent to 1 mod p. But you have a doubt. So you can ask one question. What is the question you need to ask? Sir, how do you are not at, you are using Fermat's little theorem, but you are not at proved that x naught is relatively prime to p, right? So, but with this automatically it is relatively prime to p. Okay, do not accept anything you when somebody is telling. So I may even not proved that. Okay. So for example, if it is not relatively prime to p, then what do you mean? X naught is not relatively prime to p. What do you mean by that? P is a prime number. Not relatively prime means p divides x naught. Are you following? So p divides x naught, then p also divides x naught square. Then x naught square is congruent to 0 mod p, not minus 1 mod p. So this automatically telling you that x naught is relatively prime to p from this. Okay. So I can apply Fermat's little theorem. So x naught square power p minus 1 by 2, 2 gets cancelled. I'm getting 1. But what is p minus 1 by 2? I can also apply here separately. So there it is giving contradiction. Am I okay?
Yes.
Anyone has a doubt, please let me know. I am now clearing. So do you want me to clear or want me to keep some time? I'm clearing. Okay, better have think about. So if you are clear, then I will ask one of you. If you are not clear, please raise your hand. Sorry, I have to do it sometimes. So when I ask, you should not say no, no, I will not, I cannot explain, right?
So can you repeat that argument once again, sir?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So I got it till p minus 1. After that, I didn't follow.
Okay, Vikram. That's okay. That is very good, actually. So that's what I'm saying. So please, so I'm that's why this is, you should be asked, actually. I'm very happy to repeat or anything. Okay. Yeah, good. So do not assume that later I will read sometime later. Okay. Abhi chodte hain means I'm not understand, but do not do like that. Okay. One of the main thing is that, see, you people are doing 5 courses. My suggestion, of course, you all already know about to complete. Now I am not in a position to give suggestions to you. But Indians are great at giving suggestions without implementing. But I am giving one suggestion is that, see, you need to complete whatever done today. Try to complete today itself, at least 70%. Now before Sunday, you need to complete whatever the cover today in this week. You need to close that Sunday. Then you will be very convenient. Otherwise, things will pile up. Then you will face problems, right? So you know that what I'm talking about. Okay, good. Okay, see, what is that I'm saying is that, so x square plus 1 does not have a root in ZP when P is of the form 4k plus 3. That is the question. So how we are proving? We are proving by contradiction. That means there is a root. So x naught square is congruent to minus 1 mod P. First we assumed this, right? There is a root. We are proving by contradiction. From this, it is clear that x naught comma P GCD 1. Okay. So check it yourself. Okay. Once it is there, so I can apply Fermat's little theorem. Okay. Now I am proving direct proof without giving the background. Okay. So by Fermat's little theorem, x naught power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod P, right? This is a textbook proof now. Okay. So that is x naught power x naught square whole power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod P. Okay, textbook proof. But x naught square is minus 1, right? So sorry, this small mistake here. So I am writing this x naught power P minus 1 as x naught square power P minus 1 by 2. But now here I am using that P is of the form 4k plus 3. So then what is how P minus 1 by 2? Okay, it is 2k plus 1. So, but x naught square is minus 1. So, power odd I am doing. So, it cannot be 1. So, that is a contradiction. Okay. So, I will not repeat and I will not give time to you. I will go forward. Yeah. Okay. So, now, so you are telling that x square plus 1 equal to ZP has, when it is of the form 4k plus 1, you are telling it has a root. How do you prove that part? That is not that easy, as far as I know. This is easy. 4k plus 3 does not have a root, is easy to prove, but it has a root, little difficult. Of course, there are various methods. Yeah, so any one of you know the proof? Okay, so one method to prove is that Wilson's theorem. So not little theorem, sorry, there is a mistake. So I wrote, there is no little theorem, sorry, Wilson's theorem. Okay, what is Wilson's theorem says? Somebody can know it?
Sir, for a prime p, we say that p minus 1 factorial is equal to minus 1 mod p.
Right. Actually, see, interesting part of that part is that, so actually Wilson given a nice theorem actually. That is if and only if condition, again for Aditi. Actually, primes, given number is prime or not, Wilson given a nice actually if and only if condition he gave. Okay. So actually, somehow, again, I'll write again. Okay. Think of the proof in the meantime. Okay. So P, if P is a prime number, then P minus 1 factorial is congruent to minus 1 mod P. Interesting thing is that it is if and only if condition. P is prime number if and only if P is prime. So very beautiful. So given number is prime or not, we have Wilson given actually. But what is the problem with this result? So to check a given number is prime or not, I have to check P minus 1 factorial. As P increases, a number increases, factorial increases very fast. So computing this is very, very complicated. So this is not useful for primality testing. Okay, given number is prime or not, though we have a very nice criterion. Okay, but it is used for several purposes. Yeah. So how can I use this to prove that x square plus 1 has a root? That means now I have to produce one. Okay, so I'll explain with one example. Let us say 13, right? So 1 square. Okay, so now so according to this result, right? According to this Wilson's theorem, right? So so we have that something is happening. So from Wilson's theorem, what we have? So 1 into 2 into 3 into up to 12, which is congruent to how much? Minus 1 mod 13, right? Good. Okay. Now, so what I will do 1 into 2. So this you see that minus 1 is coming here already. Yeah. Okay. That is needed, right? But now I need to some square here somehow. That is the crux of the problem. So 1 into 2 into 3 into up to 6 tak jaunga maine, right? What is 7? Yeah, Aniruddha, go ahead. Somehow 7 and 6 are related.
Minus 6.
Minus 6, yeah. 7 is minus 6. 5 is, sorry, 8 is minus 5. Congruent to modulo 13, okay. So actually I'm writing 12 as minus 1, right? So actually now here it is congruent to minus 1 modulo 13, okay. So that means that now, but now how many minus are coming here? That is a part, main thing. When the prime is of the form 4k plus 3, sorry, 4k plus 1. So how many are here? Actually P minus 1 by 2 are there. Total there are P minus 1 here. So I divided into 2 halves, right? So there are P minus 1 by 2 are there, but P is of the form 4k plus 1 now. So there are 2k are there. So minus 1, minus 1, minus 1, 2k times are there. So that is positive. Okay. So that is square equal to minus 1. Done. Very nice. Are you appreciating or not?
Yeah, sir.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Nice. Thanks. Aniruddha, you have something to say?
No, sir, I was just marking yes.
Yeah, okay, good, very good, Aniruddha. Okay, so are you see that? So doing course is okay, we need to apply them. We apply only when you understand them properly. And proofs also easy actually. So everything is now, see, what is that you need to do is that at least once in a while, sometimes when you are going for a walk or you are waiting for a bus, or sometimes when instead of wasting time, okay, says recall things. Okay, one simplest thing is that yeah, so I will tell to my students, they know it. So whenever you are going to sleep, okay, so you are not getting sleep, just recall what happened in the today's classes, right? So sir started at 10:40. So he started like this. He told first that. So try to recall proofs also. So what is going to happen? You will not recall. You will get sleep at least, right? Okay. So similarly, when you are waking up early in the morning, right? So again, try to recall. So it is very difficult to wake up, right? In at least in winter, but again, you try to recall. So you will, you are really very good sleepy, then you will recall. Otherwise, you will wake up instead of recalling. Yeah. So actually, recalling is very tough thing. So you will wake up at least, right? So Thursday, try it actually. You will not miss my 8:30 class, right? Okay. So good. So till now, any questions? I kept one sheet blank to explain you any questions or anything. Okay, good. Okay, still now I just covered one slide only, right? So
Sir, I have a doubt.
yeah, please.
Sir, in the by the theorem of Fermat's little theorem, can't we prove what we just proved through Wilson's theorem?
Okay. So you are telling that can I prove that 4k plus 1? So it is not giving any contradiction there. So that will not give any contradiction. So that is why I do not know still whether it has a root or not by that approach. Are you following, Karnika?
Sir, we will know that there exists something which is a square. Sir, we need existence for this.
Okay.
To prove that x square plus 1
okay.
Has a root. We just have to show.
Okay. Try to understand. There I actually started. There is a root. Suppose there is a root, then x naught square and all, right? But while proving, so why I started with that? So by contradiction, so I proved somehow contradiction. But in order to prove it, so I cannot start with there is a root. So think about, you will realize. Or still you want to say something, you can say.
No, sir, I'll think about it more.
Yeah, thanks. But very good actually. Yeah. So that is good to ask actually. Yeah. But so you can ask even in the next class, okay? Any one of you. So do not stop. So I will also improve, try to improve. So in another approaches, I'm not telling that this is the only way to prove it. I am again repeating. So there are so many proofs will be there. For example, look at this. I'll give 2 proofs for this now itself. So you know that every finite group of multiplicative group of a field is a cyclic group. The question, right? Every finite subgroup of a multiplicative group of a field is a cyclic group. So you may come across sometimes in your life this statement. If I take a field, if I take a finite subgroup of it, then it has to be cyclic group only. What are the finite subgroups in real numbers with respect to multiplication? If you not ask yourself now. Yeah, my question is clear. You know real numbers. You know real numbers is a field. So what are the, now you know real numbers with, if I remove 0, then r minus 0 is a group, right? That is not cyclic group, you know. But I am saying that if I take any finite subgroup of it, it is cyclic. Why r minus 0 multiplication is not cyclic? So Karnika, you know, right? Real numbers minus,
yes,
if I remove 0, yeah, please go ahead.
So no element has the same cardinality as that of the
No,
column.
cardinality we cannot discuss, right? Even, so do you have any infinite cyclic group? Do you know any infinite cyclic group, Karnika? Vipin, you are not allowed to say, okay, sorry. You are my tutor.
Right, sir.
Yeah. So you know that infinite cyclic group, at least one infinite.
Yes. So Z.
The set of integers, right? And you know something else in the infinite cyclic groups? If, for example, some G is an infinite cyclic group.
Every subgroup of it is cyclic.
No, that is okay.
So
I'm
can I-
not talking about that. Yeah, Sachin, please go ahead.
So they have two generators.
Two generators,
One and
okay.
one.
That is for
Okay.
Z, okay. That's okay. That is not my question. My question is that, so first I could ask that, do you have any example of infinite cyclic group? Yes, Z. And yeah, you are correct that for Z, 1 and -1 are the generators. That's fine. Okay. So you people, so that is actually related to some concept called free group. Z is a free group and 1 is a generator. So everything is generated by 1. Okay, I'm not going to that. So is there any other infinite cyclic group which you know other than Z? I actually given the answer now. Okay, so actually there is no other infinite cyclic group. If you took any infinite cyclic group, that is isomorphic to Z. Okay, that is, sorry, that is what, so you want to tell, sorry, I'm not allowed you. Yeah, good. So that means that R minus 0, so we can prove it. If there is infinite cyclic group, then it is isomorphic to Z. There is a result. Okay, from that you can prove that R minus 0 is not cyclic group. Okay, fine. But now now the question is that in the real numbers minus 0, what are the finite subgroups I'm asking? Yeah, so Vaishnavi, yeah, please. Yeah.
Sir, actually, your voice is not clear. I guess
Oh.
I don't know. It's about my internet connection or.
Okay. Thanks, Vaishnavi. Yeah, sorry. So is it, what about other people? Is my voice is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Vaishnavi, I think so it is internet connection problem. Okay, that's okay. Thanks for informing at least. I'll try to put also now much louder and yes, okay. Yeah, so now the question is this, Vaishnavi. So R minus 0, real numbers, I am removing 0 and it is a group with respect to multiplication, right? Now my question is that what are the finite subgroups in that?
Sir, UP.
There is no concept of UP. Now I am in the real numbers.
Sir, any prime we take?
No. There is no concept of prime. I am in the real numbers. Real numbers I am asking. Real numbers minus 0. So I am
I don't
asking.
think there will be a finite subgroup. I don't think. Like,
No. We have, see, only identity element 1 itself. If I take only
yeah.
1 and minus 1.
1 and minus 1 also there, right? 1 and minus 1. Both are cyclic also. You see that?
Yes.
And why it cannot have any other? These are the only actually. Why? So for example, if there is a group, then actually it is a finite. Then actually you know that by Lagrange theorem, so right, that x power order of that group equal to 1, right? So there are no nth roots of unity except only x power n equal to 1 in the real number satisfied is only 1, right? You know that every positive real number has unique nth root. And x power n equal to 1, you know one positive nth root, that is 1 only. Okay, beautiful. So you understood that. So there are no other cyclic groups. So this is actually, we will ask in the interviews of PhD also. So people many times they will say that I am interested in group theory algebra. So they will come and we will ask this question. Many people will stuck. Okay. Oh, sorry, just to help you, tell you that how things goes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
So, but like, other than these, there are not even any finite subgroups, no, other
No,
than.
no. There are no. Yeah. So these are the only finite subgroups in real numbers. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Good.
that can be, isn't that easily seen because it won't be closed like under.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. What about complex numbers? Beautiful. What about complex numbers?
Nth roots of
All nth roots of unity. That is exactly all cyclic groups. Means you see that every finite cyclic group is inside just complex numbers. Beautiful, right? Every finite cyclic group is subgroup of complex numbers. Means isomorphic too. Means okay. So every cyclic group I can see in the complex number. That is called representation theory. What do you mean by representation? So abstract thing I'm putting in the concrete concept area, right? So okay, so do not go into that much. Okay. So I'm now giving two proofs. So don't worry about, I'm going little fast now. Here I'm saying that you can come back and see if you not clear. So it is because to give more explanation, I have to go more depth and it takes entire class to this one only. Okay. So, but no need to worry. So you can just, the statement is sufficient for us. So one of the proof is goes like that. If G is a finite abelian group, right? And G is isomorphic to direct product of cyclic groups. It is called fundamental theorem of abelian groups. Okay. So that is one result we have. Okay. So now once we have that one, then each one is cyclic group. Okay. Then M is the LCM of all these numbers, Pi power Ni. Then actually LCM is always less than or equal to the product of the numbers, right? Somehow I need to show that. Okay. So if A belongs to ZPA power Ni, then A power PA power Ni equal to 1, right? So, but M is the LCM, so A power M is also 1. Okay. So that means that what I proved is that X power M equal to 1 for every element of G. Okay. But however, in G has product Pi power Ni elements, and while the polynomial X power M equal to 1 has at most M roots in P, that in finite fields, this is the where I am using the field. Okay. X power M has at most M roots. Okay. So, so that is giving that M equal to P power I Ni. Okay. So this is one proof. Okay. So I proved that M equal to. Yeah. So it has to be cyclic, and so that is the thing. Okay. Okay. So I am going forward. So as I informed earlier, another approach. Okay. So if you're not happy with this thing, then we are discussing the number theory. By using number theory, we'll prove now. This is very straightforward. Okay. So you see that proof is also does not much in the slide, only some portion only it is taking. Let G be a finite subgroup of order n with respect to multiplication in a field f minus 0. Okay. I took GD. GD is all x such that x power d equal to 1. I'm not saying order of x equal to d. I'm taking x power d equal to 1. Okay. Where d divides n. Okay. You know that so yeah, so for each d I'm taking, so one particular, so I'm looking only divisors of n, and I took one particular divisor. For that I collected this set. So it is non-empty. Why it is non-empty? One is there, identity always there. Yeah, good. Yeah, so just I will ask that one, that so you will be there actually, right? Okay. So let F be a field. X power d minus 1 has at most d roots. Again, I am in the field. Now I am using that. So then x power d is less than or equal to d. Okay, that is till now it's okay, right? Now I am considering another set, g power d now. That is order of x equal to d now. Okay. Now I don't know, is there any element of that x or not? G can be empty or whatever it is. Okay. Suppose that there is some y in g power d. Okay, that means there is an element whose order equal to d. Then that means now you know that y power d minus 1 also satisfy x power d equal to 1. Am I okay? 1 power d is 1. Y power, I already told y belongs to GD, G power d. That means order of y equal to d. So y power d is 1. What about y square power d? That is also 1. Y power d minus 1, that is also 1. And you know, order of y equal to d means this all distinct. And they're all satisfying that equation x power d equal to 1. That means they're all belongs to GD. But GD diamond cardinality is less than or equal to D. But these are all distinct. That means that it is in that particular case, so that is equal to GD. If there is an element of order of y equal to D, if there is an element order of y equal to D, right, then GD equal to the cardinality of GD equal to D. That is what I proved. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. See, my goal is that what is that I am proving till now I proved is that G power D cardinality is equal to D or empty 0. That is what I done. If whenever it is non-empty, who's now from some G power D non-empty, say I am telling that GD cardinality, G suffix D cardinality. Okay. Whenever G power D is non-empty, then cardinality of GD suffix D is exactly equal to D. Okay. So from that, so but we know that GD is cyclic group. Okay. So GD, the way so once it is non-empty and these 1 y d power, these are the elements. Now GD becomes cyclic, right? Once y is there, it is generated by y. So, but so now in that case, what about the cardinality of GD? What are the elements which are whose order exactly equal to D, right? In the cyclic group, how many generators are there, right? That is exactly phi of D. I just wantedly paused sometime. Okay, so you know that in cyclic group, number of generators are phi of D, right? So that is exactly GD. GD is collection of all those generators actually, right? It is not a group, okay? Try to understand that. It is only collection of the elements whose order equal to D. So now N is equal to cardinality of G, that is G is of order N, right? Now you know that if I take any element in the group whose order is the divisor of N only. So actually G power D partitioning G, it is a partition. So by Lagrange's theorem. So every element order is a divisor of N. Okay. So every element is in 1 GD. But now cardinality of GD is either 0 or phi of D. That's why I put less than or equal to here, remember. But you know Gauss theorem in the number theory. Summation D divides N, phi of D equal to N. So N equal to N. That means, so that is telling that G power N is non-empty. That means there is an element of order N also. Okay, so I hope it is a nice proof, but I hope this you can follow very easily. It is because there in the previous proof, I am using big results, fundamental theorem of algebra. Sorry, fundamental theorem of abelian groups I am using, right? But here I am not using things. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes gap now, break. Okay, yeah, so you have any other, so take, so we will meet at again. Okay, so let us say 11:45. Okay, sorry, 11:43 like that. 11:43. Okay, so take some break and those who have doubts you can ask me. So those who have some other works can do in these 5 minutes. Thank you very much actually. Yeah, so are you able to see slides? I just by mistake I clicked.
We can see, sir.
Okay, so see, are you able to see still?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, good. So fine. So I'll explain with one example so that it's much clear. First of all, very thanks for telling recording part. Yeah. So to find a quadratic residue modulo 11, we look at the numbers, right? So 1 square equal to 1 modulo 11, 2 square equal to 4 modulo 11, right? 3 square equal to 9 modulo 11. 4 square is how much? 4 square means 16. When mod 11, it is 5. I hope you are clear with that. 5 square is 3 and so on, right? So what do you mean by when you say that A is a quadratic residue or not? Just to solve that equation, x square equal to A mod P as a solution or not. So, okay, I'll repeat. So what is the problem? What is the algorithm I need to write? I take a number A. Okay, I want to check A is a quadratic residue or not, right? So what is that I have to do for that? I'll check x square equal to A mod P has a root or not, right? Yes. Okay. So x square equal to A mod P has a root or not, that I have to check. For 11, I am now trying. What is that I done? I took all the numbers, I squared them. So which number I missed? 0 square, that you already told. I already told. Okay. So now can somebody tell me what are the quadratic residues and what are not quadratic residues from this? Yeah, Aditi, go ahead.
So quadratic non-residues, you want me to tell them?
No, anything. So if you tell one, other set it is easy. So first tell me quadratic residues, QR.
So 1, 4, 9, 5, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 9 are quadratic residues, and other number that is 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, they are quadratic non-residues, right? So similarly, you can try that 1, 3, 4, 9, 10, 12, that the quadratic residue modulo 13. So why 12 is a quadratic residue modulo 13? Why 12 is a quadratic residue modulo 13? I am asking these questions in between so that how far you are followed my previous concepts, right? No one?
Sir,
Yeah, Sachin.
so it will be 12 square equals to congruent to 1 mod 13.
Yeah, so why 12 square is congruent to 1 mod 13? So 12 square is congruent to 1 mod 30 is telling that 1 is quadratic residue. Are you following? That's why I'm asking.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So, yes, sir. So just now you said about the property that 12 square is congruent to 1 mod 13 will be like 12 square congruent to
No,
13
again,
minus.
no, be careful. See, a number is quadratic residue. It has a square root. So you want to show that my 12 is a quadratic residue means, so what is that you need to show? X square equal to 12 has a quadratic is a solution. So that confusion comes. That's why I'm paused. I'll repeat the question. To show 12 is a quadratic residue modulo 13, you have to show that x square is congruent to 12 mod 13 has a solution. Yeah, Vaishnavi, is it? Yeah.
So 8 square, which is 64,
Mhm.
is 12 mod 13, right?
Okay, so you are telling that way.
GCD of 12 and 13 is 1. So
Yeah.
12 is a quadratic residue modulo 13.
Okay, so which number you squared?
8.
18. Okay, she.
Sir, 8.
8. Okay, thanks. So she's telling that 8 square is congruent to 12 mod 13. So that's why 12 is quadratic residue. But I want you to tell by my previous thing today we discussed. I am thinking that one of you come with that. If you do not come, then I am not then doing my job properly. 13 is one nice number. 11 and 13.
Sir, can I try again?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So, x square is congruent to sir, just now she said that 8 square is congruent to 12 mod 13. So, sir, we can say that 8 square is also congruent to 1 um,
No, no,
1
see,
mod.
no, no.
So
The
13 is
formats
of the form.
formats little theorem maybe we can.
So x
That is
square
okay.
minus
Sir,
1 is
Okay,
congruent
Shruti.
to
Yeah, Shruti, correct. Okay,
x square
thanks. Yeah,
minus
Aditi
1
also, I think, want. Yeah,
solution
correct.
if
Okay,
it
Shruti and
is
Aditi. Okay, so you saved me. Yes, thanks. Okay, so you made me that. Okay, I'm not that bad teacher. Yeah, thank you. So x square plus 1 congruent to 0 mod p has a solution. X square equal to minus 1 mod p has a solution when p is of the form 4k plus 1, right? 13 is of the form 4k plus 1. Do not, other people don't worry about. So we are all, so sometimes we get, sometimes we do not get. You do not know what is that I am asking, right? So what is that I am saying is that 12 is actually minus 1. That I'm telling you that 12 is nothing but minus 1 modulo 13. So asking x square equal to 12 mod 13 is same as x square is congruent to minus 1 modulo 13. So that has a solution. We proved it. What is the solution for that? So actually she computed. So for example, one of you computed 8. But if I take in general, so x square equal to minus 1 mod p, if I do not know about the prime p is of the form 4k plus 1, then what is the answer? What is the solution? You remember I used Wilson's theorem to give a solution root to that. I'm not only given the existence, I given exactly that what is the root also. One root I given, right? What is the root? It is the root x square congruent to minus 1 mod p. What is the root?
P minus 1 factorial, p minus 1 upon 2 factorial.
Yeah, very good. So p minus 1 by 2 factorial. 1 into 2 into up to 6. You remember that 13 ke liye. So now at that moment I not ask for a general case. Now this is the time I had to ask general case. At least one of you will come up, right? So Rohan think at that moment. That's why he able to tell now, right? So that is what you need to do as a student. At that moment you think of, not now. That's why he able to tell now, right? When I am asking at that time, he generalized it. I'm not praising Rohan or for me everyone is same. But I'm telling that what is in Rohan's mind happened at that occasion. That will help you to think. Okay, so okay, fine. Okay, so do not go into that. So now, so p minus 1 by 2 factorial. P minus 1 by 2 factorial is the solution. What is the other root? But it has two roots, right? What is the other root? That is natural. X square equal to 1 in general. What are the roots? If I know one root, what is the other root?
inverse
Minus only, right? So minus of p minus 1 by 2 factorial, right? So under due modulo, if you do, then it will be some other number, right? So once you found one root, then it's negative also real root. So we'll find both of them. So that is the beauty of that. If it has one root, it has other root also, just negative of that. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Advantage of that particular thing is that what is advantage now, when we are working in 4k plus 1, quadratic residues behaves nicely. So if 3 is a quadratic residue, then minus 3 is also quadratic residue. So that again comes in the number theory, that product of two quadratic residues quadratic residue. So minus 1 is a quadratic residue, 3 is a quadratic residue, then minus 3 is a quadratic residue. But what is minus 3 modulo 13? 10. So I no need to prove 10 is a quadratic residue. Once I know that 3 is a quadratic residue, 10 is automatically quadratic residue, right? These things can be proved when you are in the 4k plus 1 form. So x square plus 1 is equal to 0 has a solution, is giving a lot of advantage. That is the reason we discussed that. Okay. Okay, so let us go now. So in general, how do you find what is the mechanism to find all quadratic residues? Very simple actually. So you need to see that 1, 2 up to p minus 1 by 2, just square them, right? Why we need to square them? Let us, I'll tell you. So Now if I take x between p plus 1 by 2 to p minus 1, right? So we can find y such that y x is congruent to p minus 1, p minus 5, right? Exactly we done in the modulo 13. Aditi told. So 7 is nothing but minus 6. You remember? Minus 6 is nothing but so p minus y. Okay. If x is greater than p plus 1 by 2, okay, then I can write one element in the less than p plus 1 by less than p by 2 and p minus I can do it. 7 is equal to 13 minus 6, right? So then if I square it, they are same actually, right? So my point is that if it is sufficient to square up to, so you see that here in the 11 case, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square and 5 square. You need to do only up to that extent only. 6 square again 3 only. That is actually equal to 5 square. Why? That is what I am telling. 6 square is nothing but 11 minus 5 whole square. So 11 minus 5 whole square, if you expand, it is actually 5 square only. So I no need to compute 6 square separately. Once you compute up to 5 square, 6 square is 5 square, 7 square is 4 square, 8 square is 3 square, 10 square is nothing but 3 square, like that. Is it okay? Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Vaishnavi, is it okay, Vaishnavi?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, actually, I like people, those who will ask questions, okay? Whatever it is. So, for example, Vikram, Vaishnavi, today they are asking. If it is not clear, they are asking. Okay, good. So, so my point is that, okay, what is till now we done is that it is sufficient to look at 1, 2 up to p minus 1, 2 whole square. Not only that one, another beautiful thing is that now, till now you understand that is no need to go beyond p minus 1 by 2. That is first point. And the second point is that now if I take any two numbers from 1 to p minus 1 by 2, if I square them, they are not congruent to modulo p. How do you prove that? Okay, I'll tell you what I want to say. You look at here again, come back to this example. 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square. See, look at the numbers 1, 4, 9, 5, 3. They're all distinct. So then they will repeat. So I am telling that up to that extent, all are distinct. Okay, then I got all the quadratic residues, right? So that is what. So how do you prove that they are not equal? Okay, so I will ask one of you because some of you are not at all responding. So I'll ask Chetna. Chetna, can you try this one, please? Chetna Jadhav. The question is clear to you at least. Can you repeat the question? What is the question I am asked at this juncture? Nikita? Nikita ji?
Hello.
Yeah.
I think that
What is the question? You just tell me the question.
question is for the initial from 1 to p minus 1 by 2 terms. Any two numbers are distinct.
Okay. If you take x square, y square, then they are not congruent to modulo p. That I want to show. Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nikita. So think about now. If you know the proof, you tell. Otherwise, you can mute and think about. So with that mute symbol, I will know that we are thinking. Okay, you are thinking. Okay. Yeah. Now, any one of you, can you how to prove that x square is not congruent to y square modulo p when x and y are from 1 to p minus 1 by 2? What is the technique you use generally?
Contradiction.
Yeah, Shruti, thanks. See, okay, thanks, Shruti. Yeah. So you actually solved problem. So see, nothing actually. So how to proceed? So generally we will think that we cannot do. The confidence is important. How do you prove? The first technique in the most of the 99% of the theorems proved by using contradiction. Okay. Suppose that x square congruent to y square modulo p. Okay, what do you mean by that? P divides x square minus y square, right? Then that is the only step we need to think in this proof. X square divides, p square divides x square minus y square, then what happens? P divides x square minus y square, then what happens? Yes.
P divides either x plus y or x minus y.
X minus y, right? So P divides, that P is a prime number. Prime number has that property. P divides AB implies P divides A or P divides P. So P divides x minus y or P divides x plus y. So P divides x minus y, then x is congruent to y mod P, right? So I'm done. Actually, we are not proving by contradiction. We can say like that also. I'm actually proving that if x square equal to y square mod P, then x equal to y. Then that will be beautiful. I'm not proving by contradiction. I can assume at least that. So that is one way. Okay. So without contradiction means what? Suppose x square equal to y square mod P, I'm proving x equal to y, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So so that is so thing. I will proceed actually. So finally, what entire thing whatever we discussed, I'll put in a theorem. Let P be an odd prime. Then every residue system modulo P contains exactly P minus 1 quadratic residues and exactly P minus 1 by 2 quadratic non-residues modulo P, right? The proof, I hope it is clear from that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Right, so exactly what are the quadratic residues? That also I found 0, 1 square, 2 square up to P minus 1 by 2 whole square mod P, right? So if I add 0 to it, then I have P minus so 0 plus, so total P plus 1 by 2 numbers will be there. So these are P minus 1 by 2 and adding 0. So you can check that that forms a group, that is subgroup of quadratic residues. So in a field ZP, so I have a subgroup of order P plus 1 by 2. So all quadratic residues forms a subgroup. Okay. So there is an area called so group graph theory, and the graph theory. So if you done graph theory, then some of you may know it. Okay. In the graph theory, I will take the vertices as elements of this field. So I'll take generating set as this, then I'll get a nice graphs. They are called Paley graphs. Okay. So actually Paley, these people actually try to construct codes by using this quadratic residues. Okay. So we'll come to that. So one of you may take that as a topic. Okay. But see, problem is that, okay, now you can ask that, okay, see, I'm able to find all quadratic residues, then what is the problem in this? But the problem is that given a element A, I want to find whether it is a quadratic residue or not. So for that, I cannot find all the quadratic residue and keep a bank and then check. I will repeat the problem. I have a prime number P, I given some A, GCD of A comma P 1. So what is the question? What is the program you need to write? Whether A is a quadratic residue modulo P or not. So you say that you should not say that, sir, I will do 1 square, 2 square up to P minus 1 by 2 whole square. I'll keep that bank, and whether it belong to that bank or not, I will check. But for that, you need to evaluate P will be very, very large. Okay. So we need to look at, there is any other technique to find a given number is a quadratic residue or not. That is the entire story. The theory of quadratic residue developed that way. Okay. Those who done number theory, they know that. So Euler given one nice criterion, right, by using Fermat's law, Little theorem or his theorem. So A is a quadratic residue if and only if A power P minus 1 by 2 congruent to 1 mod P. The advantage of this theorem is that while we are proving it, you will find all the quadratic residues very nicely. What is that? So you take the, so you know ZP is a field. So ZP minus 0 is a multiplicative group. It is a finite. So it is cyclic group, you know. In the cyclic group, what happened? There is a generator. So that is a primitive root, modulo P. So generator in the group theory, primitive root in the number theory. So that primitive root order is P minus 1, right? So exactly now if I take that primitive root, so primitive root power 2, power 4, power P minus 1 by 2, they are exactly all of the, they are the quadratic residues. Beautiful. So once you know primitive root, I now I need to compute square power 4. Only one element ka I need to do. In the proof it will come. Actually, while proving it, we need to prove that. Okay, because of that, in the number theory course, quadratic residues will come after the primitive roots. So here we will use that. Okay, but so later people proved that better criterions. Gauss given nice criterion. Later, the student of Gauss, Isistinian, given another criterion. Okay, so as you know that Gauss, one of the great mathematician, told that mathematics is queen of sciences. Okay, and then he also told that number theory is queen. Sorry, he may not told mathematics is queen of sciences. Sorry, right at that moment I'm a little confused. But number theory is queen of sciences. Then now people say that quadratic reciprocity is queen of number theory, right? So he liked it very much, and he given 8 different proofs for that one. So one of the proof, Eisenstein and his student simplified it. Okay, so I do not go into that. So that is the area of quadratic residues and all. So today, now next topic I will try to complete, that is related to finite fields. So any questions till now? Quadratic residues part. Okay, so let us go forward. A little different flavor from now onwards. So you know that a commutative ring, R plus dot is a commutative ring with unity. Unity means 1 is there. Okay, then M into A, that is it is a definition. I put a definition. A plus A plus A M times. M is some positive integer, or right, or you can think of negative also, but at that moment minus A we have to add M times. So from now onwards, M dot MA means M dot A. Okay, why unnecessarily putting dot extra and all? Okay, so it will be clear from the context. But remember that M is not an element of the ring, so MA is meaningless. Okay, there is a multiplication in the ring, right? That is not that multiplication. So it is addition actually. A and M times I'm adding. Okay, so okay. Now suppose that there exists a positive integer k such that k into a equal to 0 for every a. Okay, once assume that there exists such a positive integer. Okay, there exists a positive integer k such that ka equal to 0 for every a. Then I can construct a set related to that ring R. I'll collect all those positive integers ta equal to 0. Since it is non-empty because I assumed that it has one positive integer. Now I am using, see, I introduced well-ordering principle earlier. Now I'm using that. So well-ordering principle, it has a smallest element, say n. So n is called characteristic of R. Okay, so denoted as characteristic. So if there is no positive integer, so this is the definition coming from the when there exists a positive integer, right? If there is no positive integer, then characteristic is defined as 0. Okay, so you know this characteristic of a ring. So this is just a definition. Okay, so now the problem is that one problem as an exercise problem to you. Let R is a commutative ring with unity, then characteristic of R equal to 1 if and only if n into 1 equal to 0. See, in the definition of characteristic, so smallest positive integer n says that n into a equal to 0 for every a. Okay, but now I am telling that, oh, no, it is no need to check all the integers, sufficient to check for one only. Okay. So this is an exercise to you. Okay, so I hope you allowed me to give in the exam also, right? Mid exam will come in the February 19th onwards. Yeah. So any questions on the characteristic of a ring? Okay. So let R be an integral domain, then characteristic of R is either 0 or prime number, right? You know the proof? So somebody know the proof, can tell that?
Sir, if it is a composite number, then we can factor it out, and it is an integral domain, then one
That
of
is the idea.
the
Thanks, Pragati. Yes. See, what is the Pragati saying that? See, whenever you want to prove R condition in mathematics, either this or that. Okay. So you know that several times it comes, right? For example, union of two subgroups is subgroup if and only one contained in the other, either H1 contained in H2 or H2 contained in H1, right? So in a real number system, in a field, x into y equal to 0, either x equal to 0 or y equal to 0. So this type of results come at several places. So how to attack all these problems, right? So first we'll assume that one of them is true, right? So I wrote everything here because it is not a foundation course. Once characteristic of R equal to 0, I have nothing to do. I'm happy. I will close the problem, right? So we'll come out of the loop. Okay, program is over. So only thing is that I need to prove that if the characteristic of R n is greater than 0, then I have to claim n is a prime number. Suppose if n is not a prime number, by contradiction, suppose n equal to R into S, so 0 is less than R is less than n, right? Composite number is this one, right? It has a factor which is strictly lies in between. Oh, there is a one mistake I done. What is the mistake I done? Hello, anyone? I have to write 1 here, not 0. Composite number means it has a factor which is strictly lies in between 1 and n, right? So by mistake I wrote 0, it is 1, okay? Then automatically what do you know about S? Somebody can help me? Am I asked a tough question?
S is also between 1.
It is also between 1 and n. So no need to say that particular thing, okay? No need to say both of them are lies in between 1 and n. Okay, good. Okay, so now I am just taking R into 1. R into 1 means what? R1 I added n R times. Okay, it is an element in the ring. S into 1 means S added 1 added S times. Okay, both are elements of the ring R. Now R we have multiplication. I am just multiplying the elements in the ring R. Okay, but R into 1 by definition it is this. So element in the ring I multiplied. But by distributive law, you know, in the rings, distributive law is there. So I'll get n into 1 equal to 0. So product is 0, right? But as Prakati told, it is an integral domain. Either this element is 0 or that element is 0. Do not think R into 1, 1 added n times, okay? R times. That is an element in the ring. So R into 1, think as one element, okay? Do not think as two elements. It is only one element. 1 plus 1 plus 1 R times. Whatever the result, that is an element. Let us call that as small a. So a into b equal to 0, either a equal to 0 or b equal to 0. So that giving a contradiction that R is a positive integer, right? So characteristic means n is the smallest. So that contradicts the minimality. Okay. So I'm going forward now. So somebody can help me to prove this. F is a finite field, then characteristic of F is prime number. I will not proceed. I will stop here only. Okay. If you not tell, I will also be silent. Somebody observe our video, they will feel that F is a finite field. Then characteristic of F is a prime number. How do you prove it?
So can we start with characteristic not
yeah,
not
okay.
a prime number?
Yeah, Sachin, we will go one by one. First of all, characteristic is a positive integer or not? Question number 1. Is the question clear? Is the characteristic is positive number or not? Why it is not 0? when you say that characteristic, when we say characteristic of a ring is 0, how we defined? For which ring characteristic is 0? Yeah. Yes. So whatever I'm telling is not clear then. When we say that characteristic of a ring is 0, so we told that.
So, so it,
I'll go back.
yes.
Okay, so
When
characteristic.
there is no n.
There is no n exist, right? There is no n exist, then only it is. But I am telling that characteristic is a prime number. That means first I'm telling that characteristic is not 0. Why? So first answer that. So that is the way you need to ask questions ourselves. First, to show it is a prime number, first I need to show it is a non-zero. So how to prove it is non-zero? After it is non-zero, then suppose that I proved, then somebody can give the answer. How to prove it is a prime number? Suppose I told that it is not 0.
I think
we've already proved that for integral domain it is.
So proof is done, right? So first think like that. So what is that? In order to prove this result, first I need to show that it is not 0. Once it is not 0, then next thing is that field is a integral domain. Every field is an integral domain. So you know the proof. What is the difference? What do you mean by every field is integral domain? What is that I have to show? So F is a field. I want to show it is an integral domain. What do you mean by that? A into B equal to 0. I want to show either A equal to 0 or B equal to 0. That is what I told in the real numbers, A into B equal to 0, right? So I am fine to prove even that part also here now. Because of time, I am not going into that. Okay. I can ask all these questions, we can prove it. What is the question? Every field is an integral domain. How do you prove it? So A into B equal to 0, I want to show either A equal to 0 or B equal to 0. How do you prove it? If one of them is 0, I am done. A is 0, I am done. Again, you will go very systematically. If A equal to 0, I am done. If A is non-zero, since A is a field, non-zero element, every non-zero element has inverse. So I can multiply both sides with inverse, A B equal to 0, right? Then I'll get B equal to 0. I'm done, right? So every field is so prove it immediately on the spot. That gives you confidence. Okay, every field is of integral domain. So I know that. So in order to prove now characteristic is prime number, it is sufficient to prove that characteristic is non-zero. That is sufficient now. I no need to worry about whether it is some number and it is again composite or not, contradiction, nothing. Only thing now boils down to problem boils down, it is not 0. So yes, how to prove it is non-zero? So somewhere you have to use finite. I used field, but up till now I am not used finite. That will solve the problem. Field use karke, I told that so it
we
is.
need to show that S is non-empty.
Yeah, so finite field, so it is finite. Yeah, so yeah, Rohan, go ahead.
So up till now, I was just able to think that we should show that S is non-empty. That
yeah, so fields means automatically non-empty, right?
No, meaning we should find one n such that n is equal to 0
what
for
is
all
that
x.
n? Yeah, what is that n? Yeah, that is what I'm telling. What is n such that n into a equal to 0 for every n, for every a, every element in the field? Can you tell me one n? Yes, Rohan, exactly. Now he given the now, what is that you need to look for? So because of the time you are not able to tell. It is lengthy, that's why 2 hours we are discussing, that's why you are unable to tell. F is a finite field. So field means what? It is a group with respect to addition. It is a group with respect to addition. It is a finite group. You take any element, finite group. What is order? Order with respect to addition. What is order means? Yeah, Sachin, go ahead.
Sir, order will be like how many times we add it and we'll get
Zero,
like zero.
right? Yeah. Okay, good, very good. Yeah.
Yes.
Now continue now. It is a finite group, right? Field only, but now I am thinking in terms
Yes.
of only I'm confining to addition only, right?
So the order will be n, right? So
Order
like,
will be order. Yeah, order is there.
as Sachin said, we will take n times.
Yeah, right. So you order is working. At least order of the field F itself is a number we have. If you multiply means n into a. If I add any element in the field, that many times it is 0. That is comes from the Lagrange's theorem.
Maybe we should consider the LCM of all the orders.
No, I do not require that. I am not asking the what is a characteristic. Try to understand. So, see, do not prove more than what we require. What is it? We need to show that there exists at least one positive integer. Yes, it exists. What is that? Cardinality of F is working. That means that there is a positive integer. That means the characteristic is non-zero. That one sufficient for me. Now I no need to go that what is order, LCM and all. So you want to say something, sorry, I want to tell you that which one to look, which one to not to look. The context also we need to see.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
thanks. Yeah. So my point is that it is sufficient to look that there exists an n such that n into a equal to 0 for every element in the field. That is cardinality of F. So that means the characteristic, there is a characteristic is positive. Now F is integral domain, so characteristic is prime number. So I proved it, right? Okay. But yeah, so now, so this is the result you told from earlier on. So, but I am not going into proof of this. So this is an exercise again. So how far I can go? As such, 1235, right?
Yeah, sir. 1235.
1235. So after 1235, I'll ask you that will allow me to go a little bit or not. Okay, but up to that extent, let us see. So the question is that every field contains a smallest field. How do you prove that? You know complex numbers. What is the smallest field in complex numbers? Subfield in it. Yes,
Q.
Yeah, Q, right? So like that, every field contains the smallest field. How do you prove that part? Okay, so that question
The
is
intersection.
yeah, right. Yeah. So let S be set of all subfields of a field F. Okay. So why this is non-empty? S is set of all subfields of field F. Why it is non-empty first?
F is its sub.
F itself is there. Okay, Aniruddha, correct. F itself is subfield of 2 itself. So it is non-empty. So set of all subfields I collect. It is non-empty. Their intersection I will take. That is also intersection of subfields is subfield. So that is the smallest field automatically. So just I given some picture. So every field of characteristic P contains Z by Pz as a subfield. How do you prove that part? I'm just asking some questions to you. So see how to go about. So now my goal is that what are all finite fields, right? So every field of a characteristic P contains a not exactly the same Z by Pz, maybe isomorphic copy. Okay, that is allowed in the algebra. So no need exactly the same copy. Isomorphic copy will work. Okay, that is the meaning of that. Okay, so how do you go about it? Okay, I'll continue. Okay, sometimes we'll go a little fast, right? Okay, so let F be a field of characteristic P. What do you mean by characteristic P first? Okay, so 0. So that means characteristic is P means P into A equal to 0 for every A in the field F. Right? In particular, it is true for, but it is not 0 before that. So please remember that for some elements it may be less than P also. Okay, so for every element if I take P is the smallest element. Okay, but at least for one what happens? For one what happens? It cannot be 0 before P. So the beautiful thing is that For 1, what happens is that order of 1 is what? The characteristic of a field F is P. What is order of F with respect to addition? It is exactly P. Right? Okay, sorry. So 0, 1, 1 plus 1, these are all distinct. Okay, that is given here. So you can check that this forms a group. It is isomorphic to Z by PZ. And these every field has to contain these. Why? Every field contains at least 2 elements, 0 and 1. 0 is additive identity, 1 is a multiplicative identity. Right? Only in some cases, I'm just allowing that 0 not equal to 1. Please allow me that. So field generally have at least 2 elements. Okay. Cardinality is at least 2. There is a field with at least 2, that is Z2. Okay. Good. So that is the proof actually. Actually, what is, if F is a field has a characteristic P, then what is the smallest subfield in it? Z by PZ only. Okay. That is the proof. Okay. Now we cannot have smaller than that. Okay. That is telling that since 0 and 1 are there, then 0, 1, 1 plus 1, there has to be there. Right. So don't worry about what is 1 plus 1. Okay. 1 plus 1 is an element in the field. So we'll just denote it as 2. 2 is a symbol. Okay. So every field of order P power n. Now we need to show that every field is of order P power n for some prime P and some positive integer n. What it is telling that I cannot have a field of order 6. Okay. So what is this result is saying that I cannot have fields of order whose order is divisible by 2 distinct primes. It is telling that if I have a field, then whose order is divisible by exactly 1 prime. Okay. So somebody can come up to proof. So, okay. So let me complete first. What is that I want to actually discuss with you? This is one thing. Then next thing is that for every prime P and every positive integer n, there exists a field with P power n elements. What is the difference between 4 and 5? Yes, Shruti, I think you can tell.
Sir, the first one says every finite field will have order of the form P raised to n, and the second one says for every prime P, we can find a field of order P raised to n.
For every prime P and every positive integer, there exists a field. So it is a converse is true. So for that converse is also true. So these are the 2 items first. Okay. Whenever you are checking, you are working in the group finite fields, you want to teach also in future. So what is that you need to see? Characteristic is important. Okay. By using characteristic, so finite field, so characteristic is some prime P. Okay. Then it contains a smallest field inside, that is Z by PZ. Then afterwards, so once it is characteristic P whose order is P power n for some that particular prime only. And for the next one is that for every prime P, for every n, there is a field of order P power n. Okay. And finally, any two fields of order P power n are isomorphic. So once you've done this, okay, you are justified the finite field concept. Okay. These are the 3 main results. Okay. So somebody can give the proof for the fourth one now. Every field is of order P power n is for some prime P. So it is 35 now. Time is up.
Sir, I think it's because it's a finite field. So it has a field isomorphic to ZP.
Right. Right.
So then.
Okay. See what she is telling. I'll just try to help further so that it will go fast. So let F be a field, right? And so it is a field of characteristic P. So we proved that it contains ZP as a subfield. Okay, F is a field and ZP as a subfield. So can somebody continue? Say something. Pragati? F is a field and ZP is a field of F.
Sir, it has to divide. Sir, F order has to be a power of P, because then it would be a factor of it.
No, not that way. So you have two fields, right? You have two fields. F is a field and you have another field, ZP.
So we can look at it as vector space.
So little bit. That is what exactly in between vector space ki and that one beach mein aur kuch. Just I want to just tell one point. I'm just looking that. Yeah, luckily you got actually final thing. So I have two fields, right? F is a field and some K is a field. Okay, and K is subfield of F.
F is a vector space over.
So actually that is called, actually what is that, when we have a field F and K is another field which contains F, then what is K is called?
Field extension.
Field extension. That's just, I am just looking that word, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so the K is an extension of F. Okay, every extension is a vector space over F, right? Yeah, so field extension, that is area called field extension. So then F is a field and it is a field over ZP. Then, so it is a vector space over ZP. Then how do you prove then again? Okay, so that is the idea. Okay, then since it is a finite field, so it is a vector space over ZP and it has a finite extension. So, so it is a vector space and a finite vector space. So it has a basis. How many elements will be there in the basis? Since field F itself is the finite, so we have finite basis. So with that we will get it things. Okay. Anyhow, so actually it is not good to continue now. Actually, I thought that today I can complete this, but each time I'm asking questions, so that not happened. So I'll continue. It's okay. I'll take another some 10-20 minutes in the next talk and I'll complete. Yeah, I'll close with this. Any questions you can ask me now?